Hello, my name's Ollie Bray and welcome back to this e-learning course from the European Schoolnet Academy on developing digital skills in your classroom. As you probably know, this is a course that's made up of 6 modules, and the 6 modules are: what are digital skills and why do we need them? Module 2, how to use digital resources and content. Module 3, how to create digital resources and content. Module 4, how to program machines, and Module 5, how to use social media. You might be pleased to know that this is Module 6 and this is all about the final project. Now, before I give you some more details about what the actual final project is, which I'll do in the next video, I thought it would be quite useful for us to kind of reflect a little bit on that journey that we've been on over the last 6 weeks. And boy, what a journey it's been. We've covered loads of content, we've had loads of online conversations, and hopefully there's lots of new learning as well, which you can take away and use in your classrooms. So far we've been really impressed with how well everybody's done, and we've been really pleased with the positive feedback about this e-learning course on developing digital skills in your classroom. So let's think back then right to week 1 when we were looking at module 1. What are digital skills and why do we need them? We looked, for example, actually what do we define by digital skills? We looked at the future of work, so what work might be looking like in the future. We looked at what jobs might be like in the future, and we also looked at how we might access these jobs and the different skills that we might need in order to do this. We also spent a bit of time at the end of the unit having a think about future thinking in terms of how we work, play, and of course learn. At the end of the module, I asked you to think about some of the big technology drivers, such as 3D printing, big and open data, sensors on everything, constant connectivity, more robots, universal translation, and the final blurring of virtual and physical worlds. I know that Module 1 got us off to a good start, and certainly there was a lot of good debate online in terms of what the future might actually hold. In Module 2, we started to think a little bit more about the classroom, in particular how to use digital resources and content. Module 2 was really split into 2 sections. The first section was on searching the internet, where we looked at different types of search engine, improving your search, advanced search, some hidden gems, and of course that very, very important thing about searching the future internet. Lots and lots of discussion around this, and I know that some of you were quite amazed by actually how many different types of search engine there were. In the second part of the module, we started to look at content and copyright, and again there was a lot of debate around this. We've looked at the reliability of digital content. I introduced you to 7 of my favourite things that perhaps you didn't know about Wikipedia. We talked about copyright, in particular Creative Commons, and then I gave you some tools about how you might tackle digital plagiarism. Most importantly, the messages that I wanted you to for you to take away from that module were the thing about appropriate skills. Getting information off the internet is trying to drink from a fire hydrant. How do we really work with children and young people to make sure they can access the internet appropriately? And again, I come back to that famous quote from the neuroscientist Susan Greenfield: "In a world so rich with information and answers, the most important skill for the learner is to frame the right question." Search is fundamentally one of the most important 21st century skills we must teach our students. And finally, a difficult question to answer, but in a connected world, how can we as teachers teach creative integrity? Something I don't know the answer to, but something hopefully we can all work together to solve. Moving on then to Module 3, we continue to look at how some of these tools might be used in our classrooms. In particular, we were looking at how do we create digital resources and content. We spent a bit of time looking at the importance of writing for the web, where we discussed things like chat rooms and also different documents. We also then moved on to look at how we might be able to collaborate online using some of these online tools. We spent time looking at audio and video, investigating podcasting, and also how we might use YouTube channels to kind of create audience for our students' work. We moved then on to website design, and although we didn't look specifically into how you might design a website, I suggested a lot of virtual tools for you to get you started. And finally, we looked at games design. Again, just a bit of a taster in terms of what might be possible. What do I want you to take away from that module? Well, I really wanted you to take away that in terms of learning, we learn best by telling stories. And of course, by telling stories, that we don't just mean telling stories in the physical world, but also in the digital world as well. And most importantly, it's not all about digital, it's all about audience. But how do we use digital technology to try and improve audience to students' work so that it gets in front of the people that really care about these children and young people? Module 4 then was slightly different. It was on how to program machines and had plenty of help from some other teachers across Europe to help me deliver this module. It was perhaps the module that most people struggled with the most because some of the content was new. We looked at the various different coding resources that were available across Europe, some of the free tools that are available to help you as a teacher learn about coding, but also how you might get your students started. We looked at some of the tools that are available for different app development on mobile apps, on tablets, but also PC apps as well. We had an introduction to educational robotics and how you might get started there. And if you didn't have the physical tools of educational robotics, we talked about how you might do some virtual simulations. And I think the thing that a lot of people found quite scary was the introduction to the Internet of Things. What will it mean in the next 12 months, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, when pretty much we're connected to anything and everything has got a sensor on it? What will this mean, not just in terms of our own privacy, but for education and also for productivity? This was a module about digital exploration, and as I said, it's the one that maybe we struggled with the most. As you continue to explore some of these ideas, make sure you use each other for mutual support. Module 5 was on how to use social media. What is social media was one of the big questions that we asked to start with, and then we looked at how we might use social media for learning networks, in particular professional learning networks, to help us pick up ideas to be used in our classroom, and also then what social media in the workplace actually means and how it can be implemented. Finally, we touched on some work to do with internet safety and responsible use, specifically around the context of social media. And we sum it up by saying, we don't have a choice on whether we do use social media. The question these days, of course, is how well do we use it? And I know that some feedback from that unit is that maybe people now know a little bit more about social media than perhaps they thought they knew in the past. And that's great feedback for me and great feedback for us here at the European SchoolNet. So, I've already mentioned these technology drivers right at the start of the video, but these are the things that we know are going to happen. We're going to be at 3D printing of pretty much anything. There's going to be big and open data through cloud computing. We're going to have sensors and everything, that's the Internet of Things. There's going to be constant connectivity via 3G, 4G, 5G, etc, etc, etc. And there's going to be more robots working with us. In fact, they're going to be everywhere. There's going to be universal and instant translation, breaking down those language barriers. And because of augmented reality and holograms and virtual reality, there's going to be a real blurring of these physical worlds. What does this mean? Well, as we've said right at the start and as we've come back to in this unit, we can't stop these things from happening. They're going to happen. The question is, how ready for it? How resilient have we made our young people? And that's why the big message that I want you to take away from this course is that education has to be values-based. We have to work with young people to make sure they're prepared for change. We want them to be resilient. We want them to be able to embrace change. We want them to be innovative and take use of these future opportunities. And most importantly, for us as educators, we have to remain positive. But the biggest value that we can instill in young people is that in a rapidly changing world, we need them to remain positive as well and see what could be possible as long as they work hard and as long as they put their minds to a positive future. So, we're nearly at the end. I just wanted to mention the eSkills for Jobs competition. This is a separate thing to this e-learning course, and if you look on the discussion forums and if you look on the notes that accompany this video, you'll find out a little bit about this competition, how you can enter the competition and how potentially you can be invited to a trip to Luxembourg to celebrate some of your work and some of your achievements. So, before I go on to the next video, which is talking about the final assignment, I want you to think about this. Technology is not going to make teaching easier, but it's going to make it different. And you guys are the absolute key to this difference. Now, I think maybe I was a little bit dishonest right at the start of this video, because I was talking about the journey that we've just been on. But the reality of it is we're just at the start of our journey. We're just at the start now of being able to continue to collaborate with other colleagues from across Europe and to put into use some of these new digital tools that we've learnt about over the last 5 weeks. I'm really looking forward to following your journey, using some of the social media tools that we've got available, and following your progress as we continue over the next 12 months and into a number of years ahead, thinking about how we can use eSkills appropriately across Europe. Thanks very much, and we're going to see you in the next video where we'll be talking about the final assignment.